Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. I'm Rishabh Gulati. We are just few hours away from the Union Budget 2026. Now, the budgetary exercise, the speech is no longer the be-all and end-all of economic and policy. In a time when I was in nursery school, when what the finance minister would say would decide the fortunes of the industrialists and the people. Because if quotas in one sector went up or went down, entire industrial units would have to shut down because of a license Raj. Those days are gone. Economic and trade policy, even tax policy, because indirect taxes are the bigger chunk of tax policy, no longer wait for the budget. When it comes to direct taxes, we've already seen changes last year, so don't expect big chunky headline change this year. Technical changes here and there, devil in the detail is certainly going to happen. So what does this budget need to be about? We don't know what it's going to be about, but we can logically postulate what it should be about. It has to be about investment in core sectors, investment in Capex, investment in infrastructure. Because, ladies and gentlemen, here's the good news. Although we shall never be satisfied, nor shall we deign to become the kind of people who are always satisfied, but the country is doing okay. GDP growth, very healthy, predicted at 7%, currently going at 8%, inflation at 2.5%, pretty good. Fiscal deficit under 5 at 4.2%, doing great. Foreign exchange reserve, $700 billion, looks good. Everything looks pretty okay. But I'm still concerned. Microsoft lost $400 billion last year. I've lived through 2008, okay? So I've seen financial bubbles, not of our making, not of our fault, sweep through us, okay? We are not yet big enough and we can never be disconnected enough for that to be relevant. I don't know what's happening with gold and silver prices. They're all over the place, okay? Certainly gold should not be going up that hard. That tells you a fundamental global realignment is happening, that institutions and central banks are selling US Treasury bonds and buying gold and putting the gold on top of planes and getting those planes and putting them into vaults in Mumbai. There's a fundamental global realignment. Now, do we expect a fundamental global realignment to happen without any impact on anything, just smooth? Maybe, maybe not. And what do we do? You know, there's a movie called The Sound of Music. Many of you would have seen it as children. And it has a song, how do we solve a problem like Maria? So in a world of how do we solve a problem like Donald Trump, we don't have answers of what is happening next. He's been quiet for a few days because right now they're busy with Minnesota and Epstein files and whatnot. So they're a bit busy domestically right now. But what he comes up with the next few days, we don't know what that might be. And how that either shakes or manipulates global trade in the markets, we don't know. Okay. Alberta is the latest one in Canada, believe it or not. So there is a larger global picture. It looks great. Everything looks fine. 6 months of US tariffs haven't sunk us. The FTAs that we have signed will take 1 year to benefit us. Everything looks like it's heading in the right direction. Fingers crossed. All right. But something dodgy seems to be going on in world markets. $3 trillion in Capex, nearly 50%, more than 50% of India's GDP is what just 3 or 4 companies plan to spend. Where's the money coming from? And is that money going to show a return? I don't know. Does it look like a bubble? Yeah, it kind of does. Seen it before. Ranjit Mehta joining us on the broadcast. He's CEO and Secretary General of the PhD Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Sumit Peer is with us. Gaurav Agarwal joining us as well. Let's pick up this conversation. Ranjit ji, so the country seems to be going okay. I think this is going to be more about devil in detail. So let me ask you a practical question. Since you represent chambers that has a lot of SMEs in it, there has been a bite, sir, in certain sectors, textiles, shrimps, many other sectors, of the tariffs. Now, overall the country is doing well, but some sectors have been hurt hard. They are yet to realize the benefits of the FTA. So what do we need for those export-oriented sectors today, sir?
Thank you very much, Rishabh. It's always a pleasure to be with you here. In fact, this budget is coming at the moment when there are so many expectations. The expectations are not for populism, but the expectations are for priorities and precision. The growth momentum of Indian industry or the growth momentum of India's economy, in fact, it needs to convert into inclusive and predictive outcomes. That's what is really required. Now, you really said about this MSMEs. Yes, due to recent tariff developments, our MSMEs I mean, more than 7 crore MSMEs, 70 million MSMEs in our country, they have been hardest hit, especially in textile sector, gems and jewelry, and engineering and all these sectors. But the question is that government has definitely taken a very proactive approach on this. We have diversified our markets because many countries, we cannot, the time has come, the world order is changing, the global order is changing. We cannot depend on one single economy. The recent FTAs like FTA with UK, FTA with the EU, the mother of all FTAs as they call it, and FTA with Oman, New Zealand, all these FTAs have opened doors for Indian MSMEs. But it is going to take some time when they develop this market. For this, I think in the new export mission, what MSMEs require today is the hand holding. Because the small businesses, suppose there is a big fair in any of these countries, MSMEs cannot take part on their own. So for this, I think export promotion mission should have definitely market access initiative assistance that can give some kind of subsidy and that can help those MSMEs to participate in those markets, in those fairs, international fairs, so that they can display their product and get the business. And I think secondly, the one of the biggest challenges of MSMEs has been the finance, how to get the easy finance. Not only easy, but how can they get on a
Okay, so
reasonable
Ranjit, sorry to
rate?
interrupt you, but let me just dissect this into straight questions. Are you aware of companies who were exporting? I am certainly aware of people, especially in textiles. You mentioned gems and jewelry, whose primary market, which means 60-70% more of their exports were all going to the US. Are you aware of these
Yes,
people being badly burnt? Are there some companies in trouble?
many companies who were really doing business with US for last many decades, they have been definitely burnt, and those companies, they had to really lay off their employees. Their businesses have been very badly affected. But at the same time, I think the discussions, the many interactions with the Commerce Ministry, we have been able to give them some kind of new market access, and
Okay.
now the government
Okay. So
is
practically, so the EU India EU trade deal is going to take some time to be ratified. So you expect it to actually kick off in January next year, which will be a remarkable achievement. Okay, if it kicks off in less than 1 year, there are 5 grades for the EU Parliament to ratify it. It will happen. The political will to make it happen is there, but it will take a few months. So Mr. Mehta, how many of these people, these entities, these companies, their CEOs, their founders, some of them are family-run enterprises, how many of them are now looking, as you mentioned, now trying to find clients in the EU? It won't happen immediately, but how many of them are being able to pivot?
You see, they have been trying. In fact, people have been visiting in business delegations to UK, UAE, and Oman. We have taken many delegations in these places. They are definitely searching, they are definitely exploring the new markets, new clients. But this business takes time. So, the best thing is that what they are doing is right now they are diversifying, they are looking for the market, but the problem is very, very serious. It is like the biggest problem for MSMEs is they cannot really, as far as their finances, their loans, all these things are concerned, definitely the liquidity crunch is
Yeah,
there
cash
because
flow.
the cycle has
Cash
been
flow is the
broken.
biggest problem. The future is okay, but the
Absolutely.
problem is that you have to worry about this year. If the company can't survive a year because of cash flow, then what happens 5 years later long term doesn't make a difference, because the company is gone and it's ruinous. So yes, in Europe, it's not just about the tariffs. There's something called non-tariff barriers, the quality control, and their standardized standards. You have to get through all these regimes as well. You have to then, of course, have the practical things in business, which is client relationships, which you have to rebuild. If they were primarily in North America, have to shift to Europe. So yes, can our textile industry now take down the Bangladeshi textile industry, because the tariffs now have equalized? But it's going to take a couple of years. So this budget, Mr. Mehta, has to be about providing for these export oriented sectors for the next 1 or 2 years while this all kicks off, and then the markets can take care of themselves.
Absolutely, Rishabh. In fact, the budget must give some kind of interest subvention, and also the monetization of those loans which are for the industry people right now, because today in 90 days an MSME can become NPA if the loans are not cleared. Though we have been demanding that the payment cycle goes a little longer, we have demanded for around 180 days for this particular NPA regulation. However, this is under consideration. I think during these difficult times, the government will definitely look into
Okay.
this.
Last quick question before I go to Gaurav. Ranjit ji, the other thing you already mentioned is cost of capital. India's have the highest 12, 14, 15%. If you are a very small company, can be even higher than that. Okay, that's insane. For many decades in Japan, the cost of capital was negative. Interest rates were negative. So we have the highest interest rates in the world, so much so that foreign players just do interest arbitrage with us. Ranjit ji, is that an exercise that we can't do anything about, because our savings rate is dictated that we also want our 7% from our fixed deposit. So by default, the loan rates are going to be 10, 11%. Is there anything we can do about it?
What we can do is, earlier there was a scheme called interest subvention scheme, especially for pre-shipment and post-shipment for the MSMEs. That interest subvention scheme has been discontinued in December 2024. If that scheme of around 3% on interest subvention for these MSMEs can be given, that will be an excellent thing. And secondly, I think government has launched a credit card, for MSMEs. I think that will also be very, very useful. At the same time, they have come out with collateral, free loans, that is guaranteed by the government of India. What is lacking is probably the implementation on the ground. When when MSME goes for a loan to the bank, still they insist on collateral security. However, CGSTs, their government guarantees it. There's a scheme, so that probably the implementation needs little more stricter rules. What we have suggested is, if there can be some kind of helpline for such people where they are facing some problem, maybe RBI can come out with some helpline so that the help can be provided to them with the particular bank. This is there.